Welcome, everyone, to today's social system mapping OnRamp session for January 8th, 2024. Your hosts today, as usual, are me, Christine Capra, and Kara Martner for tech support. So if there's anything that you need, invite you to get comfortable, at all times take care of your needs. And if there's any kind of help, technical help that we can provide, please ping Kara in the chat. For today, for agendas, we've sort of done some intros. We'll do a quick intro in the chat as well in a minute. I'm going to go through our social system mapping intro and theory of transformation. I'm going to sort of do a quick version of it, but it's not going to be, yeah, we'll see what happens. Then we're going to look at the human systems dynamics map, and then we'll just open it up to answers and questions. And for those of you who are new, I always stick around for an extra half an hour after the session. So anybody who wants to do that and ask more questions or just, get to know people, just connect. There's that that post-session half hour. So and we'll be doing that today. So feel free to stick around. So let's just in the chat, I got some info from Danielle, but not from everybody else. And so Danielle hasn't gotten to learn about the others. So let's go ahead and in the chat, put your name, pronoun, location. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. And then when you're done with that, what's one primary network that you're part of or you're working for? Usually there's a network behind anybody's presence here of some sort. And then what we've touched on this, but what brings you here today? Just if there's anything that's up for you today that would be helpful for me to be aware of, that would be great. And then Danielle will have let you take a moment to just absorb the rest of the people here a little bit in writing. I would like to okay. Well, while I'm waiting for the rest of why people are here, if they want to share it, I would like to go to getting started on our presentation. And so I'm gonna move back to thanks for the affirmation, sharing my screen. Nope, wrong screen. How did I manage that? Okay. Okay. And so I'm going to start with this introduction that we often do when people don't know what social system mapping is. I'll go through this fairly quickly, but so what is social system mapping? I like to say that it's a mashup. It mashes together components of a social network map, an asset map, concept map, system map, all kinds of these various different kinds of maps that we're used to often. Those of us who work in the kind of context that you're all working in, used to these kinds of maps. It builds on a social network map, but it's different from any of these kinds of maps because there's more data, it's more dense, it's interactive, it's moving. And so it can seem more, there's just more to absorb, which sort of requires more of our norms of thinking, pushes on them a little bit, and that's good. but it also needs to be managed well. So it's online, interactive, accessible, iterative, emergent, dynamic. And so part of that, when people look at a social system map, they might look at it and think, oh, I've got this. It's just a bunch of dots and lines. I know how to deal with this. But given the density and the robustness and the dynamicness of the data that's involved, we like to think of it as more of an ongoing collective practice where we're learning how to unpack what's there. We're learning how to improve it and keep it up to date. So it's more of a practice than a product, and more of a process than a product, and it's a practice. And why do we do this? To support systemic transformation. The whole point of social system mapping is to support a global movement that's already existing out there, and we're trying to help shift from systems of dominance, exploitation, and extraction to systems of connection, reverence, and regeneration. And what we've learned in the last 20 or so years about that kind of systemic transformation is that it requires strong networks of wise change agents. So cross-sector, cross-perspective work in complex systems, which requires, I like to think of it, there's two fundamental shifts. One is a relational shift where we're going from understanding ourselves as separate to a more porous, more multiple perspective, more interdependent and interconnected self, as well as changing there's a cognitive shift involved as well, which is going from a mechanistic, simplistic, reductionist worldview to understanding the greater dimensionality, greater interconnectedness and complexity, and getting to what we call living systems or complex worldview. So we're trying with social system mapping to support both of those shifts. So that's what it is and its purpose. I sort of whipped through that quickly. And then the next piece, I'm going to just stop my sharing my screen for a moment. And oh, welcome, Anita. See, you just arrived. Just want to say hi and give you a moment to check your mic, if your sound, if you want.
Hi, Christine, and hi, everyone. Sorry I'm late.
No, it's no problem. I'm so glad you showed up. So happy.
Great. Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. Okay, so I was just sort of going through the initial presentation, and I'm going to go back to my sharing my screen. And I just got through the piece about what social system mapping is and its purpose. And now I'm going to go to Drew, I'm sharing this because of you, because I don't think you've seen it, and I think you might find it interesting. And this is a thing that so I'm going to share what we call our theory of transformation.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
And as well as Danielle and Anita haven't seen it. This was Jim, who's here, and Brian, who's here, and a couple other people who aren't here right now, and I worked on articulating in a visual way what it is about social system mapping that we think can be transformative and how that would work. So this is our theory of transformation in graphics that I'm going to show you. So go forward. Okay. So it starts with a group of people on the ground who may have something in common, some kind of shared purpose or shared goal, or maybe they're enmeshed in a system that they would like to transform into be a more healthy, more life-supporting system. So there's some kind of change that these people on the ground want to create. And they might know each other, but they might not know each other. They might be coordinating already, but they might not be coordinating. But at some point, someone who knows of these people or is among these people realizes that if they were better connected, and if they were sharing resources or sharing knowledge, supporting each other in various ways, that the change, the transformation that they're looking to create in the world their efforts would ripple out and be more effective, and they'd be better and faster at creating that transformation. So there gets to be this sense of we should be connected, and at some point, a small group of people, usually it's small, some subset of this group on the ground decides that they would like to take on the responsibility to help create a network or create this connected group of people so that they can be more effective. So sometimes that's a funder, sometimes that's just a person who's part of the group on the ground who is really passionate about it. It can be, sometimes the executive director of a nonprofit, but somebody chooses to say, let's make this a network, let's get stronger together. And they invite another person or two or a dozen to help them begin to think about how to create a network. So they start meeting, they start talking to each other. So that's this orange swath is the relational shift that I talked about. They start talking about and working on their own relationships and thinking about how can we bring these people together. So they start working on the relational shift. At some point, they start doing relational types of things with this group on the ground. They'll hold convenings and maybe have some kind of discussions about stuff, or they'll find shared topics to have people do presentations about. Whatever it is, they'll start to gather people and to help start to forge relationships, or at least the potential for relationships amongst these people on the ground. Eventually, this group of people in the middle will start to realize that they need to know more. There's so many things that they would like to know about this group on the ground, but that they don't have a way of knowing, such as who's working on what kinds of parts of a system, or who has what roles in the system, or what kinds of assets, or what kinds of needs, or ways they could support each other, knowledge, expertise, life experience, etc. So they start to have this picture in their mind of, oh, we need to know more, and we need to know not only those things about the players in the system, but they want to understand who's already working together and who isn't working together, so that they can start to help strategically understand, who they should be making introductions to, who they should be fostering exchanges with, etc. So they start to want to know more about the network, and they start to have in their minds like what is essentially in a social system map. They're thinking, oh, I would like to see this, I would like to see that, I would like to see the other, etc. And so eventually, if all the stars align, they get they come across social system mapping, and they realize that this will help them see the things that they want to see. And so they start working on a social system map. Now, in an ideal world, this group of people here would design the mapping, the content of the map. They would design the whole thing in consultation with people on the ground, with people representing all the various different perspectives of the group on the ground. And they would make it so that they could make sure that the map really reflects the reality that the people on the ground need to understand, that they feel good about the languaging, etc. So that would be the ideal world, but in reality, it's often not possible to get all the kinds of input that you would like, simply because people don't understand why they're not used to social system mapping. They're like, I don't know what you're doing, and this doesn't seem like a great use of my time, or they're just really overworked or whatever. So we like to think of this in a living systems way and just say, well, we just get started where there's energy. Just start where we can do our best, and don't worry too much about making it perfect. Don't get too caught up in getting everything all fine-tuned for the future when we can't see the future anyway. So just get started. So that's how we hold this as mappers. And so the people who are working on it will design the survey with as much input as they can possibly get, and they keep trying to get more input, and they stay very open to need for tweaks and for iteration. But they do go ahead and get started, because once the people on the ground can actually see a map and interact with a map, then it becomes easier for them to understand oh, I see how you're going to use this. Oh, I see the value of this. Now I understand why you're asking for it. And I think you should fix this. And I think you should fix that. And I think that's a problem. And so that iterative thing just naturally can start to happen. So the data goes from the people on the ground into the map, and then everyone in the network has access to the map. And in the beginning, what usually happens is it's the people who are the core, who have taken on responsibility to develop this network, are the ones using it, mostly using it. They'll use it to find hot topics to convene around, or to introduce people to one another. But over time, as they continue to share the map with people, help people understand why the map is helpful, they start to get more, as I said, get more input from people, and they can tweak the survey and so make it closer to the whole purpose and goals of the network. So they're using it more, and the people on the ground are using it more for connecting people up. So now this little white line means the data is getting closer and closer to really great for everybody. And then as time goes on, our theory of changes, and this is happening in our network, we have a map where we're practicing this theory of change, and we're seeing it in other places as well, where we start to, as we deepen our understanding of how the map can be used, we start to use it to understand not just who wants to know who, and not just understanding the individuals in the network, but starting to see the larger structure of the network. Where are there gaps in resources? Where are there gaps in connectivity across perspectives that should be talking to each other, et cetera? So that starts to be that living systems complexity perspective that we're enabling people to sort of naturally, just sort of gently slide into that kind of perspective in the context of what they're passionate about and what's meaningful and what they're working on, so that it's not like some abstract complexity theory lecture thing about examples that don't mean anything to me. It's about like, yeah, this is my system. I care about this system and I need to understand it better. And so it's totally applicable and relevant. And over time, that applicability, that cognitive shift, which is the purple swaths, gets stronger and stronger. So the map is still reiterating and getting closer and closer to helping us really understand what we want to see. And we're using it more and more for understanding not only the individuals, but the whole system and working with the system. And so eventually, and this is our theory, we're sort of not quite to here yet in any particular place, but we're seeing this happening. Eventually, the data is aligned, the relationships are aligned, the understanding is aligned, and everything is just lining up and creating a sort of a momentum of increased understanding, increased in connectivity, and increased capacity, so that they're all working together. So that is our theory of transformation. I'm going to pause here and just see if there's any clarifying questions, especially from the people who aren't usually here, before I go into two next pieces. One is a super high level of the technology, the tools needed, and then we'll go into the human systems dynamics map and poke around and answer your questions about the map itself. So any clarifying questions from new people before I move to the next piece? Okay. Anita, I'm trusting you're good because I can't see your face.
Yeah, I'm good. I have jet lag. I got back from California yesterday, so you wouldn't want to see me. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm keeping up, and I'll also watch the recording again anyway for what I missed prior to me arriving.
There's no pressure, so don't it's all just to support you, and if it's supportive of you, then that's great. No expectation for me. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And so just the two pieces of technology that are needed to make a social system map is the map. What you're going to see lives in a data visualization platform called Kumu. Kumu does is a graph visualization tool, meaning that the data is represented in terms of nodes, dots, or just little bits of text or rectangles, but nodes and then lines between the nodes, which are the relationships between the nodes. And this is the graph. Network visualization is a big piece of systems thinking, because systems thinking is not about the dots, it's about the connections between them. And so being able to visualize those, whether they're like connections we think of in terms of people, but whether they're influences or forces, like this node has a certain kind of pressure, puts a pressure on that node in terms of like the ecology, etc. All of that, a graph visualization is very helpful for. So Kumu does all kinds of maps, not just social system maps, any kind of data that you can represent as dots and lines. It's online, it's available to the public by subscription. You can get a free account, and it's fun to play with, and it's very interactive and lovely. So the data is presented in Kumu, and we gather for a social system map. There's lots of other kinds of maps that we don't use sumApp for, that aren't social system mapping, that are not, I mean, we all sort of practice a variation of kinds of mapping, but for the purposes of this community and social system mapping, we use sumApp. So sumApp is a data gathering tool. So it's kind of like a super fancy survey that is designed to gather data about the individuals in the network and their relationships to one another. It's designed to be able to be changed, both from the questions and the options to adding new members. So it's designed to continue to adapt to your situation, so that you don't have to keep getting a new data set every year and then trying to figure out how they match each other. It's just all there, continually growing, and easy for your network members to work with. So that's sumApp. That's the tool that my partner and I have, we've developed, we continue to develop, and it's designed specifically for social system mapping. So data gets gathered in sumApp, the data gets via an online link, it gets put into Kumu right away. So it's not like you have to download stuff and upload stuff. It's just moves automatically from sumApp into Kumu once you get this piece set up. So then the data is visualized in Kumu, and then we have a link from Kumu back into sumApp, so that the map itself is engaged with, you can engage with it in sumApp, so that your members don't have to get a Kumu account. They don't have to go into two places. They just go into sumApp and they get everything they need right there. So I'm going to stop sharing and go to hang on. Anita, I can't remember if you've ever seen sumApp, like the actual interface. Have you? Are you there? If you're
No.
okay, then I'm going to show it to you briefly. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. This is okay. So this is sumApp. So all of this is custom designed, and I would recommend, if you're not in our map yet, so like these people here in this session and other people who've been to other sessions have put themselves on our community of practice map, so that they can get a feel for how the tools fit together. They can see an example of how it works, and they can also use our map to potentially reach out to other people for support, and for shared, just whatever they think is interesting. So they can use it in the ways that we talk about. And so this is the first page of, so this is the data gathering tool, where all of this text is custom designed by you. And then this is my instance. So I've uploaded a picture of myself and written a little blurb, brief tweet-sized blurb of myself, this is all standard part of sumApp. Then there's the profile, which is, these are the questions. And these questions are totally custom based on your context. So when we talk about the data sort of going from not super aligned to getting closer and closer and closer aligned in that vortex picture, what we mean is as we go forward, we get clearer and clearer about what kinds of information would be helpful for us, and we update, we might add new questions, or we might update the option lists, etc. So this is all totally custom to your context and evolving. And so this is the survey for our particular map. And then how we get at the questions is, so this is every person in the network is what we call these member tiles. So I don't know SD. Well, I guess I've met SD, but these are the questions about my relationship to SD Solomon Gray. And I'm going to just save that. And so you can see that the piece that was put in on the first page shows up on their member tiles to help us know who's who. And then, I'm going to say, Seth, we are more interactive than the last time I was in here. So I'm just going to save that. I've changed my relationship to Seth. So as you can see, Jim is in our session right now. He's right here. Jim and I have a lot of interaction. And so you can just go through the whole list and say every member has this list, and it represents their relationships to the others in the network. And so again, Kara, I think if you haven't, I haven't seen, but if you could put the link to the opt-in form so that those who aren't on the map can put themselves on the map if they'd like, that would be great. So you get at the connections in that way. And then this is the piece where the map is made in Kumu, but we're embedding it into sumApp so that now we can see various views of the data we've gathered, and we're representing it in various different ways in this particular map. So that's how the two tools fit together. They're seamless for your members, but if you're doing a map, you need to know that there's two tools to the puzzle, two platforms. I'm going to stop, and what we're going to play with is this map, the Human Systems Dynamics map. And I think Kara, you can put a link to that map in the chat so that if people would prefer to play with that map than to watch what I'm doing on the screen, they're free to do that. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and just ask if there's any clarifying questions or anything that I've said that is confusing or doesn't make sense before we go into playing with the map from any of you. I see Anita's giving a thumbs up. Thank you. Danielle, are you good? Okay. I'll trust that everyone else is, they're quite familiar with all of this. So you're probably like, get on with it, Christine, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing. And so this is an example, and this is where, especially Anita and Danielle, as we're going through this, if you see something that I do and you would like me to slow down or back up or explain anything, this is where we really are here to help you just get a grasp of whatever pieces there are that you are most wanting to understand at the moment. And just just know that there, with this stuff especially, I mean, in general, this is true, but with this stuff especially, there are no dumb questions. So please don't hesitate out of concern, like it might be dumb, or like I said it 5 minutes ago, and you want me to say it again, because a lot of it bears repetition and familiarity. So having said that, again, the data for this map is gathered in I'll just say momentarily, the Human Systems Dynamics Institute was founded by Glenda Oyoung about almost 30 years ago. It's a body of work around complexity thinking in human systems. And Glenda and she has three sisters, all of them and their parents are educators in some way or another. And so they all have focused, I mean, they do this work with companies and with, municipalities and large scale systems, but they teach complexity. They have ongoing workshops and trainings and lots of materials, and they have Glenda's approach has been super about making it accessible and understandable to, general people. And so I really like the and breaking it down in ways that are just very easy to understand. And so the Human Systems Dynamics Institute's the model, what Glenda calls the models and methods, are we use those to in our own sort of learning, and I'm a practitioner of human systems dynamics. So just to put in a plug for HSD, and then we have a bit of a relationship with HSD, and we made this map for them a while ago. So it hasn't been changing the way in our transformative, in our transformation vortex. It has not been changed since it was started. It was started quite a while ago, and our thinking in this community has shifted a lot, but the HSD focus on the map has not continued to pay attention to what we're thinking. It's just they're sort of adding new people as they get new cohorts, and that's as much change as happens with this. So it's a great example for the technical stuff, and there's some ways of the evolution of it. It hasn't been doing as much as it could, just to be clear about that. But so as we're gathering data in the sumApp data gathering tool, all that data goes into Kumu, and then we slice and dice this data up in different ways. So the first thing you want to notice about a social system map is that this side panel is all custom designed, custom written to suit your context. So all of this is changeable depending on your needs. And one of our norms, my partner and I, is that once we've gathered the data, we break it up into different views. There's different stories we'll want to be telling with this data, or there's different things we're wanting to be understanding. And so we have different views that will help us visualize and see the patterns and see what's going on from different perspectives. So the first thing you want to look at is look at the side panel and see, are there different views, and are there links to them? And so that you can understand, okay, now I'm in one view, and I'm just clicked. Okay, so now I just clicked on the models and methods view, and you can see that it's all the same underlying data set, but it's representing it differently. And so I'm just going to show you what that shows up like. So now in this view, we're looking at the connections between the people on the map. In the other one, we were looking at the connections between the people and various models and methods that Glenda teaches. And so I'm just, and that's as many as I'll go into, but, and then just to point out that where we usually start is with what we call the visual directory view, which just has, it's very simple in terms of the way we can represent data in this kind of a context, and that there's just the people and their pictures. And if you click on a person in any view, if you click on people, you'll see their responses to their particular profile. But we start with a directory view because it's visually less overwhelming for people. And once we get into those ones where there's lots of lines and maybe different size nodes and a lot going on, it can be, just like people just go, their brains will shut down. They'll just kind of go, I can't do that. So, so we try to start out as cleanly as possible and then get more complex. Pausing for questions at this point. Okay, I'm not seeing a face that looks like it needs an answer or a hand on the thing, so I'm going to proceed. And so a couple things to know about what happens in Kumu with the data is, first of all, again, every node or every individual, and this could be single persons, or we could do a different kind of a map using organizations. So these dots could be organizations. We could even do both, but that's a slightly advanced process. But at any rate, the dots will, and again, the color scheme is custom. There's a lot of ways you can make this, specific to your context, but the dots are individuals in this instance, and it has their answers to the questions in the survey, like I said, so you can, you can click on people and see a bunch of stuff about them. You can also filter. So let's say we want to see who's in, who all is in Canada. Okay, now we've just got the people in Canada, or who is in the UK, and now we've got the people in the UK, etc. So you can filter that way. You could say who all is in the UK and who all is interested in the arts. Okay, so Anita, I know you're interested in the arts and you're in the UK. So if this were your map, you could go in and see, okay, that guy looks interesting or not, or this person does, or maybe I want to reach out to this person. So that's a way you can filter down on, and all of these filters are coming from questions in sumApp. So if you ask a question that's got a list of options in sumApp, you can turn it into a filter here. And if you don't ask it, then there won't be a filter here. I'm going to refresh this view so it's unfiltered again. And then if we go to interpersonal connections, or this is the relationship view. Is it happening? Okay, it's coming. So now we have the people again. So the information about the people is going to be exactly the same as it was in the other view, but now what we've added to and we've got the same filters, etc. But what we've added to this view, and I'm just going to put that in the middle, is the connections. So now where people have answered a question about their relationship to one another, that's in the side panel. So Petty and Bruna, I might not be saying either of their names right, have said that they've shared information or ideas with this person in the last year. Now, a thing to notice is they said that in 2020, so that might not still be the same. And that shared information is in the ranking is a way to, it's like the middle, sort of the middle strong kind of relationship. So the point I'm trying to make here is, let me just do something. If we click on a link or on a line, we get information about that line. So this is Gareth saying how well he knows Glenda, and he's saying he's collaborated with her in the last year. Again, because this hasn't been kept up to date in the way that we would be ideal, we don't have, in some instances, we don't have super current information, which is part of the puzzle of social system mapping, is getting people to keep their information up to date. So we can see information about questions. I'm going to put this back to, or see information about the individuals. We can see information about the relationships. We can filter. So we're still able to filter up here on the individuals. We're also able to filter down here on, so if we just say, I want to see who's been collaborating. And then we can see who's collaborating. We can see that sort of core working together structure. We can see, people who are in the periphery. We can see who's deeply involved. It would help if it were up to date from all angles. And I think I'm going to pause. I'm going to stop there and just answer if you have questions or comments, or see what's coming up for you. Especially Danielle and Anita, but so we'll prioritize them.
I was wondering, you mentioned a few times that it's been, the information is added, but it's not necessarily being used in the way that it could be. I just wonder what the example, what could it look like according to you in terms of to maximize the benefits that this mapping provides, and so how could this particular one be used better? And do you have an example of another one that is used in, really maximized?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And so for starters, what is happening with this map is that, so the HSD practitioner training program happens 2 or 3 times a year. maybe 20 to 50 people go through this training program. And when they're done, Glenda has a process to invite them to put themselves on the map. So they put themselves on the map as new people. So new members are being added to the map. But what they don't do is ask everybody who was on the map to go in and update their connections, so that to say how we're engaged this year, or if there's any of the details about myself that have changed, like I have a new job, etc. And what particularly that leaves out is that, for instance, I've probably not updated myself on this map for 2 years. Nobody reminds me. I don't think of it. And there may be, in the last, say, 5 to 6 cohorts, there may be people I know in there. There may be people that I work with in those cohorts that if I went back in, I would say, oh yeah, I know that person, and oh, that's great, they went through the program, blah, blah, blah. So the older people, the earlier map members, are not being asked to update and say who they know now. So that's one of the biggest things that is helpful, to at least make sure that everybody's got a chance to say, to update their relationship with everybody else on the map. So that's one piece. The other piece is they're not really using it for sense. I mean, she used it a lot for sense making for herself in the first year, but it never got incorporated into other activities. It doesn't really get announced anywhere. It doesn't really get shared and examined in any kind of context. And so that is, that's one of the reasons that I say social system mapping is different, is because to get the most value out of it, you need to have a practice. That's why we say it's a practice or a process. It's not a product, of using it, making sense with it, of inviting people to update it regularly, so that it does the data in there is far more fresh and recent and useful. And that doesn't just happen with a map like this. It's a mindset shift, and it requires those things that I just talked about, like sense making with it and sharing it with the community that's on it as a regular process, which we call socialization or embedding it. And I think probably, I mean, one of the maps we've done the longest ago was the ReAmp map, and they have a process of every year they have an annual meeting, and the network coordinator does first of all, when anybody new enters the network, Sarah does an orientation with them where she shows them the map, she walks them through, she talks about how to use it, etc. They have a big update of it every year. But I would say, to my knowledge, the most actively updated and iterated map that exists is ours in our community of practice. And Rebecca is on the mapping team, and Jim has been on the mapping team, and we work to figure out what are the ways we can incorporate this into our work more, and what are the ways that the map could be iterated. And Rebecca writes fun little invitations regularly that get sent out from sumApp to invite people to update their map. So the best practices idea of this is still being developed, and it's taking, like, lots of people have lots of great thoughts, and but we don't have this is how it should be. And I don't know that we ever will, because it all depends on your context, but it's all about finding opportunities for making it useful.
Okay.
Drew,
But I have something, Christine.
I didn't catch that. Say that again, please.
I was just thinking, can I add to that? Because
Yeah.
there's the map we've been working on for something like 2 years for the Octopus Community Network in Islington in London.
Yeah.
And a major theme of that has to be the promotion of the map by somebody who looks after the map. So the map won't just happen by itself. Somebody has to be out there promoting its use. And then normally could be somebody who's actually embedded in the community itself, right? rather than some tech person. And recently, as I think you know, Octopus now have published that map on their website as a live embed. So anybody in the community can access that. But they're promoting it to community groups to encourage their members to access that map. So it's not just, of course, there's a map making, you know, but it's also the encouraging the whole thinking in terms of network systems.
Yeah.
Also, I haven't managed to get the words working on this bloody thing, so I'm probably picking up stuff that you've already picked up already.
No, this is really helpful. And actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I think Octopus community is another example of one of the most socialized maps that I'm aware of. And because they're in England, is Tsitsi still the coordinator there, Drew?
No, Picking has now left actually, but they've now appointed Rosie as their map manager, and I'm training Rosie to pick up where she has left off. So there's a series of training sessions about to take place in the new year. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, introducing Anita and Rosie might be helpful because Anita, I think Rosie would have, especially Tsitsi would have, but thoughts for you that you might find useful in your context.
Yeah, I've just taken the name and put it into, so I'm just on the website. I'll have a look at that afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. So, Danielle, are you good? Is there anything that's coming up for you?
So would you say that that's the biggest challenge in kind of the utility of maps is getting the people to like keeping the data updated and
yeah. Sometimes the design of it, we can get so idealistic in our expectations of how to get started that we spin our wheels for a very long time and don't ever really actually get started. So that can be a challenge, but I don't think with Narayan and your project that's an issue because I know he knows how to get a project off the ground. But once you've got the project off the ground, then keeping it up to date is definitely the biggest challenge. It's also the biggest potential. I mean, that's where the potential of the map comes from, and the biggest benefit of the map is addressing that challenge. So it's sort of a two-sided thing there, but yeah, that is where the most focus needs to go ongoing. And we have announcements, and I'm wanting to get to the announcements. But I'd like to just see if there's anything left resting with you, Anita, that you really want to feel strongly need to open up before we move to the announcements.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. So I'm going to hand it off to Rebecca to do announcements.
Sure, just a couple, and that is coming up next Monday will be our monthly deep dive session. And the following Monday will be our quarterly community building session. And that quarterly session, it's been a year now, and those are really focused on getting to know each other better because such interesting people show up for these conversations. And we also play with the map, so we get sort of incidental practice in map navigation. Again, just like I said, it's an informal series of conversations in which we build relationships within our community of practice.
And do we have links? Kara, so just a other piece, we're in the middle of transitioning from using Eventbrite to using another platform, and it's been kind of messy, and so we're not as on top of it and automated as we have been in the past. And so, okay, Kara's got one deep dive, the deep dive link ready. We may not have the community building one ready yet, so keep an eye out for that. And other than that, I'll just we'll then wrap up a little early. Please do stick around if you want to, but we have this little closing ritual we like to do, and I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. which is I'm just going to count down 3, 2, 1, and then we will all unmute. Well, we'll unmute while I'm counting down, and then when I get to 1, we'll just all give each other our blessings and our well wishes and our greetings for the rest of the day. And then if you're leaving now, just go ahead and jump off. And if you want to stick around, just don't jump off, and then we'll be together afterwards. So 3, 2, 1. Thank you all
Thank you
so
so much.
much.
Have a great
Wonderful
day.
to see
Happy
Thank
you.
you for
Year.
being
Have a
here.
wonderful week.
Love to
Yeah.
everyone. Bye-bye. Okay. So, hi.
I'm gonna add myself to your map.
Great.
Yeah. And have a mess around with that. When the example that you showed, I did recognize some of the names in that, which is interesting.
The octopus map.
No,
No.
the HSD.
The HSD one. Oh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I think it was probably, I don't know, 2019 or something. I think I had, or 2020, a meeting with Glenda, and is it her sister?
Yeah, Royce. Yeah.
Yeah. A Zoom. So I subscribe to the to what they do. I haven't taken part in any of their training or anything like that, but yes, it was interesting to see the map and see some of the people in different places, including like someone from the Tamarack Institute and stuff. So for me, as you know, because we've spoken, just seeing it laid out like that is because there are all these, in what I'm doing, there's all these different networks, and I'm wanting to, so I know they exist, like all the people and how things are woven together, but how I am able to communicate that out and invite other people to see kind of what I see, but what we should all be able to see, and what we, what else we can see from that. It just would feel like a relief to be able to translate that through that visual, actually.
Yeah. For the rest of you, Anita and I have spoken, and I think of hers as one of the more mature actual networks, not like a visualized network, but like of actual people who are actually networked and actually supporting each other over a long period of time. And so Anita's got, I can tell, lots of really depth of insight into network understanding and building networks that a lot of the people we work with and our clients are sort of got the vibe and, talking the talk, but still trying to figure out what does that actually mean. So I think of Anita as a wealth of knowledge about building a network. So,
Okay.
yeah. And just go ahead.
It's because obviously I missed the introductions. It'd be really interesting to, so Drew sounds, I can hear a Scottish accent going on. Are you in Scotland, or are you somewhere else? I'm just curious about where everybody else is. I'm in Birmingham in England.
Drew,
Oh, sorry. Christine, I have not managed to get the subtitles to work today at all, I'm afraid. So I'm not picking up everything, I'm afraid.
well, Anita was just wondering where everyone is, and she was hearing that you are, you sound Scottish, and was wondering if you're in Scotland, and she's in Birmingham, England.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. I hadn't picked up that, I'm afraid. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We're actually doing some work in Birmingham at the moment. We're working for an organization called Black Thrive, and Black Thrive have commissioned us to do a couple of projects, and one of them is looking at Black groups in Birmingham and their interconnections, collaborative, etc. But the other area, we've just got a piece of work from the Health Foundation in England as well, to start to look at their what they call their Q network, and that's quality improvement in the health service. So we're looking at that, and that includes watching Birmingham as well. So I'm happy enough to communicate with Anita if she wants to about our sort of general experience in these areas. But as you know, we use not just Kumu along with sumApp. We also use a program which is called Graph Commons, and they give us different levels of analysis. Graph Commons is more of a kind of quick and dirty analysis. Kumu is more depth. So often the quick and dirty side of it is more useful on the ground because it can lead us into involving groups or clusters in an area that we hadn't really anticipated before. But I'm very happy to talk about this stuff if you want.
Yeah, that would be great. I don't know if you can hear me, but Christine, if you can,
Yeah.
it's in the yeah, it would be great to speak to you, Drew. I am familiar with Black Thrive. I know.
I'm sorry, Anita, I'm not picking all that. I'm based in
Okay.
Edinburgh, actually.
Yeah.
So as you may have guessed by the accent. So yeah, I should be wishing you all Happy New Year with a glass of whiskey in my hand. Okay, that comes in 10 minutes time.
Yeah. So Drew, Anita is saying she would be happy to meet with you or to talk with you, and she's familiar with what's Black Live?
Thrive.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Thrive, Black Thrive.
Now my hearing.
Thrive, like thriving.
Oh, Thrive. Oh, got it. Thank you. So yes. So Drew, Anita is familiar with Black Thrive and would be happy to connect with you. And so I will send, or Kara will send an email sharing an invitation, or you could just put your emails in the chat and then you could reach out to each other. But
We can make a
Anita,
connection.
Drew has been doing this kind of mapping for decades, and he's an elder statesman in our, he knows a
Why
lot.
am I always
about mapping.
portrayed as the most ancient guy on this?
It's not about your age, it's about your experience.
Yeah, I understand exactly what it's about.
Anyway, he's quite knowledgeable and understands a lot about all this stuff. So he's great to talk to. And Drew, Anita put her email. Drew, can you see the chat?
No, I can't. Oh, sorry, I can see the chat. Yeah, I just don't.
Make it. I'm just in the middle of creating the intro email too, if that reduces.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you have my email.
I do.
Just just pass that to Anita. I'm quite happy to do it that way, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and it will come from Kara, not me. So look for an email from Kara at greater than the sum.
Thank you.
Great. Yep, great. Jim.
Okay.
Christine, I was be curious, knowing the HSD network and knowing this challenge of moving network social system mapping use into practice in a community like that, what do you think it would take for this map to start being a practical use in that community?
So do you mean in that, hypothetically in that community, or literally in that community? Because
I'm not sure the difference.
well, the difference is, so first of all, it would take someone whose intention and focus would be to socialize the map. And Lisa Negstead, who's a member of our community and an HSD practitioner, and she and I over the years have repeatedly talked about, should we go try to revitalize the HSD map? And we both end up saying, I don't have the capacity right now to do that. So it needs someone with capacity and willingness and some kind of sense of how to start to work with the openings that exist. So, if there was like 2 minutes pointing out the map in every monthly free workshop, and like just ways of getting people familiar with it and knowing they can use it, and then, but especially in HSD, it would be a ripe place for people using it to explore some of the HSD models and methods. And so if it were, like if Lisa and I were actually doing this, we would be trying to incorporate some of that into the actual offerings and stuff that Glenda does. But, and the reason I asked if it's hypothetical or not is Lisa and I are the overlap, like we're the ones in the middle of the Venn diagram where we're both into mapping and into HSD, and we didn't have the capacity. And there would need to be somebody, but also Glenda is going to retire this year. And so the reason I'm saying is it hypothetical is because this map, and part of her retiring is trying to figure out how the community can take parts of what's going on and keep it alive. And one of the methods or vehicles for doing that, Glenda said, what if we revitalize the map and use the map more and lean on the map more now that I'm retiring? And nobody else picked up on it. Like, other people had other things they wanted to focus on. And it would naturally fall to me and Lisa and Sarah Shanahan, and none of us have the capacity. And so I don't think it's gonna, so I think this is the last year when there will be practitioners who are going through the training program and would get put on the map.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you could take it one step farther in terms of the hypothetical, like if there were 2 or 3 people that stepped up and you had the capacity, Sarah, you or Lisa had the capacity to coach them or something, what might they do in a network like this?
Okay, so a simple thing they could have done would be to, they have a regular newsletter, to in the newsletter have a blurb that's regular that says, if you have, have you updated your connections in the map recently? We've had two new cohorts go through, you might know them, go update, just like a little repeating blurb. And I can't remember why in the beginning, Glenda did not want to go back and ask the prior people to update there was like a reason she had that she felt like, no, the perfect time is when they finish the training program. And there isn't another time I can't remember why. And that was, 5 years ago. And my own understanding of what's necessary, like I didn't know how to make the case for more, and hadn't been starting to explore methods for more. And so I sort of said, okay, whatever. I mean, it doesn't seem right to me, but we can go there. So just that a blurb to update would be great. And then we would be just looking for what's already happening. What are the communications that already exist in the network, whether it's written communications or online communications, and what are the gatherings? What are the times people come together that already exist, and where are the opportunities in those places to plug in a little bit of map exploration or a little blurb to update it. And I'm gonna just ask Drew to there are some really cool things that Octopus does. I mean, Octopus has a regular way of dealing with this, and which is implementing in a more specific way what I'm talking about in an abstract way. So any of these things, which is what any network could and ideally should be doing. Drew, do you want to talk about how Octopus has kept their map up to date?
Well, yeah, with difficulty. I mean, Octopus is a community group that relies on grant funding. So, I mean, one of the reasons it's lost Siggy is because her program ran out and the money wasn't replaced, so she had to find another job. But it's the chief executive of Octopus just happens to be a network person. And so she has driven it all the time to make sure there's somebody there to look after the map, etc. And I can't really overemphasize the role of the network map manager. That's because she's there permanently to look after the map. That's her job. But she's also out there selling the map to other people, and she's and she's the person that they will refer to if they've got technical problems with the map. So they've managed to put that in place. And some of the other maps that I've been involved in don't have that kind of person. You don't have a member of staff looking after it. So
Drew,
so,
can
yeah.
you, no, so you have talked in the past about how, like, if there's a gathering of some sort, like, can you tell us the things that like that Siggy used to do with the community, with the map, like the actual
Yeah.
ways she would work with them?
Yeah, one of the most effective methods of getting engagement, I'll have to say, I mean, I'm not a technical person. I mean, I've spent decades working with communities, so I mean, engagement and participation is very much where I'm coming from. One of the most effective ways of getting people involved in the map is if you have a conference, say there's about 100 people at a conference, we get people just to note down very simply, you know, on A4 sheet, for instance, the 5 organizations or people they work most with, that they collaborate with. Because the essential part of a network map is the relationships. All the other stuff that you may collect data on is, if you don't have relationships, you don't have a network map.
Yeah.
So everybody hands these in during the course of the day-long conference, and I sit in the back of the room and just crack it into machines, and we project the Kumu map on the back wall of the conference at huge scale, so people can actually see the map growing in front of them.
Mhm.
And that's a hugely effective way of actually getting people to engage with the map because they understand where it's coming from. And we've done that in several several events, and we're about to do that for Black Lives in a conference in London. And they reckon they may have about 150 people at that all-day conference. And it's a great way of being able to collect people's interest in the map. Because when you talk to people about map, it's so abstract, they don't understand what they're contributing to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even having a simple map to contribute to is better than having nothing at all.
Yeah. So
Sorry, is that the question you're asking? Because
yeah, thank you, Drew. So
yeah.
and so what I heard you say was that that Siggy would actually just let people write stuff down, and then someone would put it into the map for them in a live setting with the map projected on the back wall, so that during this conference, people are seeing they're not being required to go into sumApp. They're not being required to do anything with their phones or their laptops, but their information is showing up and the map itself is changing during the course of this conference, and they can see that, right?
Yeah, and then after that, it's much easier to collect the more detailed data that you want
Yeah.
to the map.
Yeah.
So you know, just handing out, you know, A5 cards and asking people to write these 5. The 5 seems to be a kind of ideal number, because you don't want people to add 20 or so and other people just to put 3. So
Yeah.
we ask people to prioritize their connections, and
Yeah.
5 seems to be a kind of ideal number for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a hybrid approach where you're doing both hands-on manual updating and then but then putting it into the technical tool. So you're using 2 ways of doing it, and you're just sort of lowering the threshold for people to put themselves on the map.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
and in that process, helping them understand what it is and see why you're asking and get the hang of it. That's really smart.
Well, I think one of the problems actually with sumApp is that it's a questionnaire, and as soon as you have maybe, I don't know, half a dozen people on a committee deciding what to put into that questionnaire, the whole thing just expands massively.
Yeah.
And I'm all for going for something simple to start with, to be able to collect people's interest in the actual connections.
Yeah.
And after that, you can deal with the data.
Yeah.
A lot of the data we now use actually is research directly off the internet.
Yeah.
Because it also gets us around the UK problem is GDPR, because it's what people say about themselves on the internet.
Yeah. 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 Danielle, I'm wondering if there's anything that is coming up for you, or that you have questions or.
No, I'm still pretty new. Like I every time I think about this, I get excited, like in my body and in like, and I don't even know why yet, but this just feels like so good. So I'm just happy to be at the beginning of this process and excited to see what is possible with it. So
Great. Yeah, thanks.
Danielle, can you just take a moment and try to articulate for us what that excitement in your body is? It's just, I'm very curious about it because I feel it. Lots of people talk about it, but what is it? What's the opportunity or the possibility to?
So one thing that I see, and I've been in a lot of different contexts, I've been in academia, in corporate America, in the nonprofit world, and then now even in this new space of systems thinkers and that type of thing. But what I see a lot of times is a lot of wasted potential and energy and resources because of lack of connection and lack of like knowing what other things are in the field and what, do you know what I mean? And you don't have time to do all that research and make all those connections and try to figure it out. And the possibilities that I see with these maps are being able to overcome some of those by putting all the information in one place. Like I remember when I was here last time and they were showing, you know, oh, we're seeing resources over here that can get over to here. I don't know. There's just the ability to visualize the data this way and to like analyze it this way. Like I said, I still haven't completely wrapped my head around it, but what I know is when I see it and when I hear people talking about it, like I get the chills down my arms and I get, you know, I feel excited about the possibilities of sumApp mixed with the Kumu map, mixed with kind of the theory behind social systems mapping. And yeah, I don't know. That was a pretty choppy answer, but.
Thank you. Thank you.
But can I add one little bit there? The great Danella Meadows quote, which I will attempt to paraphrase here, but she says that you can't describe a system in terms of words because words are linear. They all come one after another, right? So you can't really get it. The only thing that will describe a system is something where you can see it all at once, and that's a picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And I think that's what I see in my head that goes, ooh, this is exciting, you know what I mean? But it's hard to say exactly. It's just almost this potential of what is possible with this program or system or whatever. Like I don't even know what to call it, but it just feels like I can't understand why everybody isn't using this all the time. Because it just seems so important and like exciting to me.
Yeah. Part of my experience is that there are people who have a systemic insight, who have an intuitive, like, I know we need that, I want that in my community, etc. And then there are a lot more people who will see that and get overwhelmed and scared. And so they'll be like, think that someone's expecting them to memorize everything or to like know what the placement, you know, to know stuff. Like we're so trained to value expertise. And this is not something that you can just look at. It's like people will say, what do you see when you look at my map? And I'll go, a bunch of dots and lines. I mean, really, I'd have to dig, I'd have to look, I'd have to think, I'd have to ponder, I'd have to see what information is there. It's not like a straightforward, oh, I know everything kind of a thing. And that can be, especially if it's introduced in a way that people are holding it like, I know more than you do, or I'm an expert about this stuff, that can increase the sense of anxiety and overwhelm and shut down and rejection.
Absolutely.
And so while, like, to me, it's exciting to be able to see the whole system, I've learned that we have to break it down in ways that enable people to get comfortable at their own pace and to feel supported and safe in their overwhelm. So it's like, it's never going to stop being overwhelming to look at a whole system all at once. That's just not a thing. But we can make it not feel threatening and not feel scary, or help people not feel alone in that, looking at the whole system together. And that's what we're still learning how to do. And I would say we've not, put enough time and energy into, I mean, it's still new, so we're still learning, but that's, to me, a really important piece of the learning curve, because that is connected to that barrier of why it doesn't get adopted, is because it's not appealing if it scares you. So, or scaring might be too strong a word, but turns you off because it's overwhelming and there's too much information there. And Drew, and we have 5 minutes left, and I do want to check with Anita to see if she's got anything.
Oh, sorry. No, okay.
But let's just, and then we'll come back to you if there's time. Anita, is there anything coming up for you, or?
Just that it's, what everyone is saying is just really resonating. I think for me, when I try to explain, depends who it is, but I feel that I'm overwhelming people when I try to explain without the visual, and even with it, and but there's something about making what can seem invisible more visible, and not just the, like the say the dots representing people or organizations, or that proximity. It's not just who. You earlier on, you said something, and I thought, okay, when I watch it back, I'll catch what she said, but something to do with go with where the energy is. So there's the energy, unless there's a heat map company. So it's not just proximity of people who is networked, because you can look at, the power is really important, right?
Yep.
Just to use just because it's an example that I've used before at something that I spoke about. If we look at, if we go back and look at the system of slavery, right? If we just look at the American context of slavery, my background is Caribbean, right? But this confusion around diversity is the goal or whatever. So that might look like lots of people that look like this in a place equals diversity, but plantations were very diverse in the sense of what people think that, oh, that equals success because there's lots of people that look like this. But of course, on a power level, that was the opposite. So it cannot just be people that look like this here, clustered and connected, but on what terms? And, so that power and energy part is really important, but and how we kind of leverage that for good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see what emerges from both of your explorations with hope, moving into social system mapping. And Drew, I know you wanted to add something. Thank you, Anita.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I wanted to see if there was more. You had a thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think it's really important to look at what happens after you have the map. We've talked about people, find them visual or empowering, etc. And I don't think we're as good as we should be at providing methods of allowing them to read the map in ways that will mean something to them.
Yeah.
And on a recent project, we invented a game to allow people to play their way through the map, to actually explore pathways through the map. And that was much more effective in engaging people in the map after it had been prepared, if you understand me. And And so, I mean, we also have another map, which is just a place called Flippin. We use for training people in that. And again, that's a game. It's a way of getting people to understand the relationship on the map by playing it through as if it was real.
Yeah.
I'm rambling again. I'm sorry,
No.
I'm going away.
That was very helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
No,
So we have 2 minutes, and is there any more stuff that's coming up for anyone that can fit in that time?
I just wanted to say I look forward to developing my map and coming back and sharing it with you and being a test subject for the bigger process of social systems mapping and kind of best practices and
Great. Yeah.
all of that. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, I just said cool.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. We always need, so I did this one today, but we prefer it to be somebody else with a different map. I just hadn't found somebody. So we're going to put you on the list of people to reach out to share your map in an on-ramp session. Okay. When it's ready.
I'll bring Narayan too.
Yeah, Ryan, and he has presented and so it's great to have that would be great. Thanks. Okay, let's wrap up. So wonderful. I'm glad you all showed up, and it's so wonderful to have this conversation with you after the session. And so I'm gonna just count down 3, 2, 1. Thank you all so
Have a
much.
wonderful day, everybody.
Have a great
yeah,
day.
bye.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.